bag of gummy bears. I've been asked several times recently how to make the eyes on some of the shrimp flies I've been tying, so I decided to make a video show you guys how to make them. They're real easy to tie, only takes a few minutes. There's three main materials you're gonna need to tie them. Monofilament fishing line, this is 40-pound test here. Glass beads, and I got these at Hobby Lobby, and I mean any color you like. And then instead of epoxy, I'm gonna be using clear cure goo. And I like this stuff a little bit better. It's easier to work with than epoxy. It doesn't take nearly as long to dry, so it speeds up the process quite a bit. So let's get into how you make them. Alright, first things first. First thing, you want to cut yourself a little piece of fishing line, a couple inches. And you can always trim this down later to get it to the size you want. And the size is going to vary a little bit depending on how far you want these eyes protruding off the body of the fly you're tying. I like to keep them fairly short, but you can experiment with it a little bit and figure out how you like them. Next thing I like to do is I like to take the lighter and fold the line in half and hit it right in the middle until you get it to melt a little bit, and it gives you that crease right in the middle of that piece of monofilament. And what that does is allow you to tie it onto the hook shank a little bit easier. And next thing you want to do is pour out some of these beads. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole process, is getting the beads on the end of the line, because these beads are fairly small, so sometimes it's hard to feed them onto the mono depending on how thick the mono is. And I just got them slid on there. And next, what I like to do is just trim them down to the size I want them. I usually trim them down quite a bit. I don't like them to stick too far off the body of the shrimp. And make sure they're even. And then I like to get a little bit of super glue and just put a little bit on the tips of each piece of the monofilament just to hold them in place until I can get the epoxy on there. So once you got the beads in place at the end of the monofilament line with the super glue, I like to get the goo out and just hit a drop on the tip of each eye just to give it a little bubble shape on the end of the eye. Then I flip it upside down and do the same thing on the back side. Just a small drop. You want to go real light with this. You don't need a whole lot. These beads are really small, so you don't need a ton of this goo to get it good bubble shape forming on these eyes. And you can come back and hit it with just a tiny bit more. Then what you do after you got your goo on there is just hold them upside down and let gravity do the rest of the work. The gravity will tend to pull the goo downward and make a good bubble eye shape if you hold it here for a few seconds. And then the last step in the process is the easiest, and you just want to hit it with the light, the UV light. And this only takes a few seconds, and they're hardened pretty quick. And they're done. And then last, I mean, it's not completely necessary, but it helps take some of the tackiness off of them, is just hit it with some sallies on the tips of each one of the eyes. And you can do this later, really, if you really wanted to, but this gets the tackiness off of it. And there you have it. Some shrimp eyes.